Welcome to our new show, the What Anyone Can Do podcast with Leo Batari and me, Randy Cantrell. Our new show picks up where the last show, Year the Peer, left off, highlighting the simple truth that who you surround yourself with matters, and that if we enlist the support of others, give back to those who give to us, and pay it forward for the next generation, we can do anything. Author and keynote speaker Leo Batari and I will interview a diverse group of thought leaders who will share stories and insights that will help you succeed in business and in life. How? By doing the things anyone can do, but most of us never will. Welcome to another episode of What Anyone Can Do, the podcast. My name is Randy Cantrell. He is Leo Batari. And the third gentleman, well, I'll let Leo make the introduction. Hi, gentlemen. Glad to have everybody.
Well, good to be here. Thank you.
Randy, thank you. And obviously, we're so happy to have Jeffrey Hayzlett with us today. Not only does he head up the C-Suite Network, but is author of a wonderful new book that we're going to talk about today. And it's just really exciting to be here. You know, you're in Texas. He's in New York City, as we just discussed. And so I'm here in Denver, actually, and here at my daughter's house, actually, where, as you and I have discussed, I have a new grandson as of
congratulations.
Congrats. 2 grandkids now. And I think the reason I really bring that up is because a lot of what we're going to talk about today, and I think what's been a recurring theme when Jeffrey and I have ever gotten together, is really talking about paying it forward and the importance and value of that. And Jeffrey, when I see what you're doing with C-Suite Network and with the Hero Factor, your latest book, I just really regard those as instruments of paying it forward and teaching us all to do the same. So I think I'd like to maybe take them one at a time, but I'd love for you to just talk about C-Suite Network, kind of what got that started for you, what the vision was, the various components of it, and also where you see it going. So that's one big question, but I mean, I'd love to kind of just dive into that a little bit, because for those people who aren't familiar with C-Suite Network and all the amazing things you're doing when it comes to us all working together to help each other be better, I'd just love for you to share that today.
Yeah, the C-Suite Network is something that's an offshoot of when I was doing a show on Bloomberg. I had my own primetime television show called The C-Suite with Jeffrey Hayzlett, where I'd see things that would go on in a company, and I go, why do they do that? And what was the conversation like in the C-Suite? Because I wanted to take people into where 99% of the people who work for a company never get to go. That's inside the C-Suite. It's a very lonely place, having been a Fortune 100 officer. It's a fairly insular place, when you think about it. We even had security sitting outside our elevators, so you couldn't even get on the floor. Or you had to have special keys. So it was always in a lockdown kind of thing. At a big company, that's the way it is, especially if you got security and a lot of other things. So, when I was doing the show, it just all this groundswell of people saying, oh, wow, what a cool concept. And how can more people get together? And I knew the value also when I was in the C-Suite myself at a very large level. I knew the value of getting together with other C-level executives at my level, or just CMOs, or just like CFOs or whatever. And so we decided to create a community for that. And so today we're the largest community that serves that C-Suite for advisors, products, services that tee it up for C-Suites looking for, breakthrough knowledge and breakthrough activity. And so that's really what we've done. And now we've got 350,000 connections through this network. We have lots of councils, which some people could describe as mini associations or masterminds, but peer groups of individuals. And then we have C-Suite TV with 47 television shows that's seen on Apple, Roku, Amazon Fire. And then we have C-Suite Radio, our podcast network, with now 87. We're the world's largest business podcast network, and growing by 12 podcasts a month now. And then we do about 60 meetings, and we have lots of services. So we have all those things all combined as part of it. And one of our group, which you mentioned, is the Hero Club. which was founded by a gentleman by the name of Rob Ryan. When he sold his company, he set aside a percentage of it for all of his employees. So now get this, when he sold his company, it was for $20.4 billion. That's with a B. And he decided, along with his wife, Terry, who was also an officer of the company, she was chief legal officer, decided to set a certain percentage of the company aside for all the employees, making the single largest number of millionaires ever created in one day. Never been surpassed. And that record, by the way, that $20 billion record, held until December of 2016, when Microsoft bought LinkedIn for $24 billion. So massive transactions. But here was a guy who was running a business who said, I'm not a hero, but people would run up to him and say, hey, you're my hero, because I can now send my kids to college, or I can pay for the operation for my mother-in-law who has cancer. Now she's going to live. And so he just decided there's got to be a better way to have other business leaders do what I just did, and find ways to do what I just did in terms of taking value of a company from zero up to billions of dollars. And so that's how the Hero Club got started. And he basically gave it to us a couple of years ago. And since then, we've 10x'd it in terms of size. But the big thing we did, Leo, is what you well know, and I think, Randy, you're aware of this too, is we make every business sign a pledge. Every CEO has got to sign a pledge. It's basically the no a-hole rule, right? It just basically says that you're going to operate with great values, and you're going to put people above profit, and you're going to put your communities above profit. And that, not that profit's a bad word, because that's what makes the world go round. We're really believers in free enterprise, but you have a responsibility. When you become a leader of a business, and it's about running hero culture. Henry Ford once said, I think the quote was, if a business is only based on profit, it's a very poor business. And there's nothing wrong with making money, but it's what you do with the money, and what's the purpose behind of what you do. And we find that those businesses that are run with hero cultures gross more money, make more money in the bottom line, have happier employees, more engaged customers, and vendors who want to do business with them. That sounds like an equation for success right there.
It sure does. I just love the whole. First of all, I love the name of the book when we start talking about this in terms of heroes, right?
Yep.
How aspirational that is. I remember as a kid, I grew up in a very working class neighborhood. I mean, I didn't even know from business or whatever. I mean, I looked at sports heroes. I looked at, political heroes, right? That I, held in some high regard. Today, unfortunately, political heroism or political courage has become something where someone speaks their mind after they decide they're not going to run for re-election anymore, which is rather disappointing, of course.
Right.
But I think that what you're talking about when you think about how people can be heroes in just certain actions that allow people to provide for themselves, really, right? To be able to pay a mortgage, to be able to, do things for themselves that I think are rather extraordinary, and they set such a wonderful example. And as leaders, I like I said, I loved your book, of course, but
Thank you.
I just, with that, I think the idea of setting that expectation for ourselves and understanding that, I think, was really powerful.
Well, Leo, another thing is, it's not about you being a hero as a CEO. Nobody wakes up and says, hey, I want to be a hero. I want to be a hero. Nobody what I want to do is run a hero culture. I want to run a business where people can do the things they want to do and get what they want out of it, and live the life that they want to live. And then as a result, all of us together, we build this business that allows us all to do the things that we want to do. And so it's really about how great leaders transform organizations and create winning cultures. That's really, truly what it is. And there's a number of ways that you look at it on the spectrum. There's all kinds of different kinds of businesses. There's a good co, which we all strive to be as a good company. But, I think it was the New York Times that wrote about our book, which I take it to heart. It said, the hero factor kicks in where good to great leaves off, which was awesome to have somebody say something like that about us, because in this spectrum, and by the way, you can go to the herofactorbook.com and I'll give you a free assessment. You could take there's a little course that you could take that's absolutely free, and it's just yours. I don't want any money for it. I just want you to have it because I want more and more businesses to be like this.
Yeah,
And
we'll
that's
make
kind of
sure we provide the link for that. That's great.
Oh, thank you very much. And so it's free, and it gives you assessment of where you're at. And page 12 of the book is, we outline it. In fact, I know it so well because I'm always referring to it, and I remembered it right off the bat. But we have a spectrum there, which really says here's the hero factor scale of where the business might be. So on the one side, you've got your hero values, on the other side is operational excellence. So when you look at that if you put good co right smack in the middle of that, well, then you have your wannabes, and then you have your do-gooders. Now, do-gooders are great. They have high hero factor or high hero values, but they're low on making money. Well, that's not good. I mean, you could be there if you want, but you're just going to be struggling to get out of boy paper sack all the time. And then the wannabes just don't have what it is to be either good coach. They're not very good operationally, and yet their values are a little lower. They'll do anything to get that buck. It's almost like the Larry, or Larry Daryl and Daryl, whatever. Remember that TV show years ago? Anything for a buck kind of thing. And then down in the lower left-hand corner, man, you've got those what I call asshats. Or just, loser companies. They're just zeros. And they rip people off. They don't care. Take your money and run. And we know that there are companies out there. And then way up here in the upper left-hand corner, you've got low hero value, but great operational excellence. Now, companies like that to me are like Walmart. They're GE. They're great companies. Don't get me wrong. Okay. But if they're giving a contribution, it's because they want to look good, not because it's part of their core value.
Yeah.
Okay. And they'll lay off thousands or tens of thousands or whatever, because that's what good operational excellence is about. You got to lean Six Sigma. You got to keep trimming. You got to keep cutting. And that's okay to run your business like that if that's what you want. And way up here in the upper right, you got these, what I call the hero factors. They're high operation and they're high profit. And we see these all the time. And I don't care, if you're listening to me right now, I don't care if you're in one of those other categories. Just pick a side. But don't tell me you're going to be of high value, but yet you don't practice it, when you're in operational excellence. So, or you're do-gooder or whatever it might be, you got to focus the balance between the profit and the values in order to get up to that upper quadrant. So that's a real part of the book that we really try to show. And that's one of the key themes is about what I call pick a side. Because I don't think as business leaders, we do enough of picking sides, decide exactly this is what we want and where we're going to go. And that's a tough conversation to have sometimes.
So if the hero companies are basically highly, excellent operationally and have that high hero factor, why don't they serve as an example because I think about these two that you brought up, right? The do-gooders who want to do good, and all you'd have to do is convince them that if you could make more money, you could do more good. Yeah. And yet for those who are making a ton of money, to realize that if you did good, you could even do more well as a result of it. And not so how do you make that case to bring people into so that you can, that quadrant that you're talking about where high operation, high hero factor becomes more prevalent?
Yeah, but let's be clear that not all businesses are cut out for that. Yeah. Not all leaders are cut out for that. They don't have the skill sets that are required to get to that level. It's not an easy thing. I mean, it's not. And it takes a lot of great conviction on operations as well as your values. Typically, when you see a do-gooder, they're great on the values, meaning they're just pure of heart, they're pure of mind, pure of soul in the way that they operate and the way they treat people, but they can't, they rub two nickels together and they're and they lose both of them, so it's not good. It's just really, and we all know people like that. People like that they really mean well, but they'll never get there. So part of it is an education, part of it's a realization in terms of getting there, but part of it is also just, it's the real thing is deciding that you're going to. And then how do you do it, and then take the steps to do it. It's not an easy thing to do. It's not. Let me give you a great example. I'm reading the book. I'm reading the book back in November, and maybe it was early December. I think it was November. It was November. And I'm doing the audio version of the book, and I'm reading the book and doing the recording like I have to do. And as I'm reading it, I'm going, oh my God, I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy. And here I am doing my own book, and I'm going, I'm not worthy. I'm not living up to the principles of the book, which I think all of us are like that. You know, even as a speaker, I'm in the Hall of Fame, but I think sometimes, oh gosh, I'm a terrible speaker, you know, or, you know, I'm on TV, and of course, with a face like this, I should be on TV. That's what I think. But anyway, but sometimes I don't think I should be. So just when we and even reading my own book, I'm thinking I'm not worthy. And I said, I don't know that we're living up to our mission statement or our vision statement as a company. And one of my employees said something to me, and I went, oh my gosh, there's a realization. No, I'm not. So then I pulled the company together in December and January, and now February, and then March, and said, we got to revisit this. We got to revisit who we are. And are we in alignment? Of course, everybody got around the alignment. Now, we still got a long ways to go in terms of, you know, making sure that we're living everything the way we want to. But, you know, the philosophy's there. So sometimes it's what do you have to do is you have to look in the mirror, take the test, and say, am I fogging it? Am I living up to what I say I'm going to do? And then you got to put the things in place. And first thing is a realization of where you're at.
I wonder if we don't write these things, though, in part from an aspirational perspective. Okay. And I think about, okay, so, you know, the book that I wrote, you know, in terms of what anyone can do, right? It's about surrounding yourself with the right people. If I look at it and I read that book, do I think to myself, I'm doing 110% of exactly what I espouse for other people to do? Probably not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it makes me, and Randy and I have talked about this, you know, want us to try to rise to that place where we're actually living up to the words we put on paper, right? In the same situation for yourself, where you probably looked at this book and said, like, holy shit.
Yeah.
I need
Yeah. I got to be doing, oh my gosh, somebody better not look behind the curtain, you know? It's kind of like one of those things. Yeah, but the first thing is that realization, and to be centered enough in your own leadership skills to be able to say, I can do that. Right? It's not easy. Look, I had somebody at, you know, like when they first brought up, this employee brought it up, I thought, who the heck you think you are? You know, like challenging me, telling me that's the case. And then the more I went, I called her back and said, you know what, you're right. We're not living to it. We need to change it. So let's do that. I'm with you. But you have to be comfortable in your own skin to be able to do that. Not everybody's at that level, right? They're not. And even though I think I'm pretty good at it, you know, I bought and sold over 250 companies in my career, you know, 25 billion in transactions. I think I've seen a lot, but I'm always surprised by things.
Talk to us about those skills. You mentioned skill set a couple of times, and that not everybody's got the skill set. Yeah.
Well, the biggest one's listening, right? And then, and the other piece of it, I think, for at least from a hero factor, Randy, you got to be inclusive, which means you got to be diverse, and that's not easy for people. You know, to say, hey, I'm willing to take a look at a spectrum that's wider than what I got today, in order to be more diverse, in order to be more inclusive. You know, it's a very different thing. But for most leaders, I think that it's the listening part that's the hardest part. You know, it's the listening. Are you listening to yourself? Are you listening to the customers? Are you listening to other people other than the people that are around you? And then sometimes we listen to too much internally, right? And so if I listen to my team, we're doing a shitty job all the time. Like, no, we're not. You know, well, look, I'm growing at 60% right now. And in some pieces of my business, I'm growing at 300 or 400%. I don't think you can be doing a shitty job. Well, you guess you could, but it's going to catch up to you. So you have to also, you know, you have to be diverse in order to be more inclusive, but you got to really spend time listening. And I think those are real critical skills. The other piece of it, Randy, is you've got to be very grounded in who you are. You know, there's a couple of examples in the book that I talk about that I think are really key to the book is Chick-fil-A. Now there's a guy, Chick-fil-A, Kathy Truitt, who's the CEO of that company, who is a devout Christian to the right of Attila the Hun. I'm saying that in a nice way, who doesn't believe in same-sex marriage. And he's adamant about it. And not only that, they're not open on Sundays. You can't get a good fried chicken sandwich on Sundays, from Chick-fil-A, with the pickle. You can't do it, and we know that the people are adamant about that brand, but yet look at his business. I know guys that I have know a lot of people who are gay who still go to that place. Right. I know a lot of people who are married gay and still go to that place, right? So why is that? Well, they respect at least his value to be able to say that this is how he stands, or let's look at Starbucks, when Starbucks had the controversy about the two young black men who walked into the Philadelphia Starbucks and the manager said, get out if you're not buying something. Wait a second. That goes against the values of the company. The values of the company, Starbucks isn't a coffee house. Starbucks is a gathering place, right? It's a community. That's what Howard said they stand for. And how they came back, remember that? You remember that? They shut the business down to do some training.
Yeah, for a full day or something.
Yeah, holy crap. Or Google, who I thought wavered and waffled when the young man wrote that, we shouldn't be looking for women as engineers, if you remember that.
Yeah, right.
I think he was flawed in the way he was thinking, but you know what? He has the right to say it. And they shut down his right to say it. And I thought that was poor. Even if I think you're wrong, I defend your right to say it. And those are tough. Those are tough to do. That's tough to do. So Randy, the other thing is getting really good about your convictions and understanding whatever it is you believe in today is going to change probably for tomorrow.
That's right.
As Leo becomes more of a grandfather, he's going to change the way he does certain things based upon that socialization that he experiences. So I think it's where I'm at from a CEO perspective when I started my career 30 some years ago is a lot different than what I am today, in terms of those certain things. Some things more adamant than others, some less about who cares, little things.
What role does gratitude play?
Oh, I think it's a huge part, to understand that you're not the reason why you got there. Right? I don't know of a CEO that can say, oh, I'm so smart, I'm so good, I'm the reason. That's why I'm a real believer. I don't think CEOs should be paid 200, 300, 400 times more than the average salary of the employee. Are you nuts? Are you that freaking smart? Are you that freaking good? Do you work that much more? I do believe you should be compensated. I think you should be fair, but I believe I'm not. Somebody's going to call me a socialist or something. I'm far from it. I'm so far around the other side. I've come back around the other side. So, meaning I believe you should make it, but I also believe the people that got you there, you don't forget them.
Randy, one of the things that you've been a proponent of for a long time, and I think this kind of aligns a bit with what Jeffrey's been talking about, is that you've used the terms, the words grow great. So what does that mean for you, and how is that kind of aligned with what we've been talking about here with regard to the hero factor?
Well, to me, it's the same mission I think that Jeffrey's on. If I had to sum it up in a word, it would be impact, and the impact, not just on the bottom line, but the impact on other people. I mean, none of us are youngsters. We're all a little bit long in the tooth, and all of us have got a litany of people in our background that have propelled us and helped us achieve what we've achieved, helped our view of the world, our view of ourselves, and we're all at that age now, which, speaking only for myself, I'm pretty stinking comfortable here. I kind of like this stage of life, of knowing what I know and ability to help other people figure it out. Leo and I both, Jeffrey, and you're cut from the same cloth. It's not a matter of us telling people what to do. We figured it out. We had people who helped us figure it out for ourselves. And for me, that's both grow and great.
And, and Randy, some of us get to it a little faster, for whatever reason. I got very comfortable in my skin probably in my early 20s, where I just said, no, this is me, I'm good. And I was comfortable with it, and the more I've gotten with it, it's like, I'll listen to this, I just go, I can't believe people ask questions like this, but how do you be great? Well, you be great. Or,
Right.
how should you be good on stage? Well, you get good,
Right.
It's like, what kind of question is that? Of course, this is what you got to do. You got to work hard. If it was easy, everybody would do it. But, early on, I got very centered about not worrying about what a lot of other people thought or how they thought. And I don't know if that was I don't think it was necessarily my South Dakota upbringing, but I think being from South Dakota helped me a great deal. But at the same time, it limited me because, South Dakota has always been one of those like flyover states. And I used to limit myself thinking, I was a big dog, but then I started looking, whoa, this is a small pond. And that, my next big breakthrough was when I realized, hey, this is something I could do in Iowa, and then my next big breakthrough was, this is something I can do in Chicago, and then, I could do this in London. I could do this anywhere in the world. And so I realized that it was just zeros. And it took me a while to figure that out. And then the other thing it took me a while to figure out, but I got to it fairly quickly, is that I'm responsible for it. So, I'd be sitting in a meeting with, when I was the chief marketing officer of Eastman Kodak, managed a $17 billion budget. And I'd be listening to the meeting and looking around and going, man, this place is screwed up. And I was thinking, somebody ought to do something about this. And then I thought for a second, went, oh crap, that's me. And so I didn't wait for permission. I just started doing it. And so when people said, who gave you the right to do that? Well, I don't know. I'm the chief marketing officer. I guess that says it pretty much right there. So, or I don't care. It's what I'm going to do. Does it sound right? Sounds like it's right. So, even though it wasn't in my domain, meaning another GM of that P&L, I would go to him and say, well, no, we're going to do this. And no, we're not. Yeah, you're going to do it because I'm the chief marketing officer, and I say you got to do it. And if you don't pay for it, I'm still going to take it out of your budget. So, and you figure out certain ways to be able to be assertive that way. But luckily I was, I was an individual who, just like you guys, the book, what anyone can do. A prime example, right?
Well, it's so interesting when you say that, because a couple things come to mind listening to you. One, of course, is the point you made about the fact that none of us do it alone, right? Yeah. When we did the podcast, the Year of the Peer following when The Power of Peers was written, and you talked to 50 really successful people in business and academia and media, all of whom, when asked, hey, tell us how you got to where you are all by yourself, they would laugh, of course, at the idea. There was a million people that helped them along the way. Right. And they understood the value of helping them going forward. But the other point you brought up I thought was interesting when it comes to, being good on stage and you just do it and all that. There was a guy who's a wonderful man, a presentation trainer who's trained CEOs and people all over the world. His name is Tony Lowe. And Tony talked about a incident when he was younger. And he was delivering his own speech long before he was ever training people. And apparently he was nervous as hell. He's up there, he's sweating, and he's, all this kind of stuff. And he came down from the speech and someone said to him, hey kid, nice speech. He said, just don't be so selfish next time. And he immediately understood what that guy was talking about, and that he was so caught up in his own performance and how people were going to evaluate him, he forgot why he was there.
Forgot the connection, yeah.
Content and that connection to the audience, and it's an incredible thing, because once you kind of can let go of that and really, I think, give to others in that way, I think it's very much in the spirit of what Grow Great is all about, what the Hero Factor is all about, what all of it is. I think it's.
It gets back to Leo. I talk about this in my last book, Think Big, Act Bigger, but it's also a theme throughout the Hero Factors, the servant mentality we should have. What can I do? The last year I've spent a lot of time reorganizing, changing, doing things, and spent a lot of time insular. And now I'm doing a lot more, especially in the last month, of, okay, how do I connect with a team to get them to know? And there's a great saying by a guy named Jason Forrest. I don't know if you should have Jason on your show. He'd be awesome. He's out of Fort Worth, Texas, and he runs the Forrest Performance Group. And Jason has a saying called no, show, do. No, show, do. You know it, show it, now let them do it. Now, he's added a new twist to it the other day. He told me that. He said, no, show, do, teach. Now, I kind of wrap my teaching in the know and show and do. But he said, no, you then really keep teaching. And I thought that's kind of a cool way of being able to do it. And the best, mentors, or these people that we talk about, Randy, about we didn't get here by ourselves. were always those people who taught.
Mm-hmm.
Who taught me the lesson or taught me how to do it. And by the way, those people, I don't know about for you, they're not famous. They're
No.
they're not huge, mega billionaire guys. I'm not, Richard Branson. I know Richard. I like Richard, but he's not the one teaching me the valuable lessons. It was Mr. Penson from Penson's Plumbing. It was Harold Jones, a former Marine machine gun pilot who was my little league baseball coach, who took me under his wing. And, when my father was over in Vietnam, who took care of me during that time period when I could have gone bad, and made sure I was straight and narrow. And his wife, Gail, and by the way, who they named their first child after me, because I gave them something back, which I never knew for 20 some years afterwards, and things. It's Michael Connor, who I bought a printing business from, who taught me the value of a Z out the Z out on a cash register. Now, all those young people who are listening to us right now, you don't know what the hell I'm talking about. But there used to be a button on the cash register called the Z out. When you hit that Z, and don't you ever turn the key and hit that Z, because it cashes the whole thing out. It's over, and you start a new day. And he showed me the value of how you measure that Z out every day. Every day, that Z out, that little simple thing as a business owner. So like today, I can tell you exactly what my average sale I have to have per day. I know what the average number of calls we got to be making. Look at this right here in front of me. What's that say? Hayzlett forecast. There's my forecast. Sitting down with a team, knowing exactly every single day what's coming in and what's going out. Little things like that. Even in a multi-billion-dollar business or million-dollar business, that's what you have to do.
It's been really great that to hear you talk about the people that you mentioned. And quite frankly, they are a list of heroes. They are the heroes that you may not be able to pay it back to, but it's why you are paying it forward to others in the way you do. And, I think it's really extraordinary. And I'd love it, in closing, if we could just have you tell people how they can learn more about C-Suite Network, tell them a little more about your book and where they can get it, and so that they can absorb what you've done and what you're doing, so that they can in fact pay it forward to others and share that with them.
Well, thank you both for that. The Hero Factor you can find in any bookstore, Barnes & Noble, Amazon, and the books, and I've been going around the airports lately and signing books as I go through every airport. And it's been funny because I share my office right here with Damon John. His office is on the other end, and here's mine from Shark Tank Damon, and I share offices together. And lately I've been going to all the bookstores, and our books are side by side. Because they're both selling so well that they keep reordering them, so I keep signing them. So the Hero Factor, it's an easy book to go pick up and get. You can find it anywhere. If you want to know anything about the C-Suite Network, you can go to csuitenetwork.com. There's, of course, C-Suite TV, C-Suite Radio, C-Suite Book Club, C-Suite Academy. There's everything that's C-Suite. You can go find us, and we'll do it. And, of course, don't forget, you can get a free assessment at theherofactorbook.com. It's free, totally yours. And, of course, reach out to me on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, wherever. I'm here.
Well, thank you so much. I can't tell you how much Randy and I have enjoyed having you on the show, and want to thank you again for all the amazing work that you do. I know you've helped me, you've helped us, you've helped countless others, and we're going to continue to reciprocate and do everything we can. And that's what C-Suite Network's all about. And that's why we're so happy to be a part of it, and why this show, by the way, is also on C-Suite Radio.
Absolutely. We'd love to have you. You guys are one of our top performers and top shows, and so one of our big headliners, which we appreciate it. And I'll leave this with everybody that's listening, in line with what Leo just said and Randy's been articulating as well. The more you give, the more you get. So give, and you get. That's the way it works.
All right. You all have a great day, everyone, and we'll see you again soon.
To learn more about our show and what we do, to submit questions to us, and to subscribe to What Anyone Can Do podcast, please visit our website, whatanyonecando.com. What Anyone Can Do podcast is hosted by Leo Batari and me, Randy Cantrell. Music provided by Kevin MacLeod is Vibe Ace, licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 3.0 license. Thanks for watching or listening. We hope you'll share the podcast.